It begins as many old terrors do, in a church. 4th of August 1577. Bungay, East Anglia. Outside, a storm moved over the town with the force of a warning. Thunder cracked above the roofs. Lightning struck close enough to make the church itself feel fragile. Inside St. Mary's, the congregation knelt in prayer, surrounded by stone, timber, candlelight, and ritual. Then, according to the story, the doors opened. Something entered. A black dog, enormous and silent, came down the aisle. Witnesses said it tore through the parishioners. 2 people died, others were scorched. Marks were left behind, burned into the church, as if the storm itself had taken a shape and passed among them. Then the dog vanished. No body, no trail. Only the storm, the dead, the marks, and the story. Some say the scars can still be seen, grooves in old wood, dark wounds in local memory. A place where lightning may have struck or where something else was said to have walked. But Bungay wasn't the only place, and Black Shuck was not the only dog. Across Britain, black dogs wait in the margins, on moor roads and marsh paths, at crossroads, churchyards, bridges, castle corridors, and the last stretch of lane before home. Sometimes they warn, sometimes they guard, sometimes they follow, sometimes they walk beside you in silence until the final hedge, the field gate, or the break in the wall. Then they are gone. Tonight on Noir Frequency we open the file on the black dogs of Britain. Black dogs haunt the long roads of Britain. They're not quite animals, not quite ghosts, not quite devils. They occupy a stranger place than that. In one county they are omens of death, in another guardians, in another quiet companions for those who should not be walking alone. The names change. Black Shuck, Barghest, Padfoot, Scriker, Gytrash, Dhoo, Hairy Jack, Cù-Sìth. But beneath the names the shape remains. A dog black as coal, or dark as the land around it, appearing where the world feels thin. They are found near church paths and crossroads, along coasts and field boundaries, on moors, in ruins, beside water, beneath castle walls, places of passage, places of uncertainty, the edge of the village, the edge of the night, the edge of what can be safely named. This is not one story, it is a pattern, a shape that keeps returning, wearing the landscape like a mask, and like all persistent folklore, it asks more than one question. What did people see? What did they believe they saw? And why, after centuries, does the black dog still know the road? Before Black Shuck had a name, before the Dhoo lay by the fire at Peel Castle, before Hairy Jack walked the lanes of Lincolnshire, there were other dogs moving through the dark. One of the oldest records, often connected to the tradition, comes from the 6th of February 1127. In the Peterborough Chronicle, a strange account appears. Ghostly hunters ride through the woods. With them are black hounds, their eyes like coals. Their presence feels less like an encounter with animals than a warning from another world. It resembles the wild hunt, the spectral procession that crosses European folklore under many names and many masters. In Norse myth, Odin rides through storm and sky. In Welsh tradition, and I apologise in advance to any Welsh listeners for my butchering of your language, the Cwnanwn, which are white dogs with red ears, hunt across the otherworldly border in the Tale of Pwyll. Again and again, dogs stand near the crossing, between the living and the dead, between the human and the strange, between the road we know and the road we should not follow. Over time, the grand procession narrows. The hunt leaves the sky, the forest becomes a lane, the pack becomes a single dog, a figure at the bridge, a shape by the churchyard, a sound behind the traveller. Perhaps dogs endure in these stories because they know our thresholds better than almost any other animal. They sleep beside our fires, guard our doors, follow our paths, watch us with an intelligence close enough to recognise but distant enough to unsettle. When a dog returns in ghost form, it carries the shock of the familiar made wrong, the companion altered, the guardian darkened, the known thing standing where nothing known should be. In the Scottish Highlands, the Cù-Sìth is a great hound in fairy lore, often described as dark green rather than black, but it comes from part of the same threshold world. It is massive, silent until it's not, and when it barks it does so 3 times, no more. Hear those barks, and the story says you must reach safety before the final echo fades. If you do not, you may be taken. The warning is ritual, a countdown, a measure of the distance between danger and shelter. The Cù-Sìth does not have to hate you to be dangerous. Fairy things only have to follow their own rules. On the Isle of Man, the dog waits indoors. At Peel Castle, the Dhoo haunts the guardroom. George Waldron, the 18th century antiquarian, recorded the tale. A black dog, spaniel-shaped, appears each night near the fire. It does not snarl. It does not leap. It does not need to. The soldiers see it night after night and learn the rule of the place. Do not walk the nearby passage alone. So they pass in pairs until one man does not. One night he goes into the passage alone. He returns pale, shaken, and unable or unwilling to say what he has seen. 3 days later, he is dead. The passage is sealed. The dog is no longer seen, but the story remains. Most phantom hounds move. This one waits. Its power is stillness. Its lore is simple. Do not walk alone. If the phantom hound once moved through the forests of medieval imagination, it found solid ground in East Anglia. Here the land is low and open. Marsh roads pass through soil and water. Fog never quite lifts. The sky feels too large for the earth beneath it. This is the country of Black Shuck. On the 4th of August 1577, violent weather struck East Anglia. At St Mary's Church in Bungay, the storm became part of a story that has never fully left. Abraham Fleming, a London editor, published an account that same year. In the title page, the apparition is called An Horrible Shaped Thing. In the account itself, it appears as a black dog or the devil in such a likeness. The dog enters the church during the service. 2 people die instantly. Others are scorched. Then it is gone. That same day, Holy Trinity Church in Blythburgh is also struck. Marks remain on the great wooden doors. Some call them claw prints. Some call them lightning. There are explanations. Of course there are. Storm, lightning, panic, religious imagination already tuned to signs and punishment. But explanations do not always end a story. Sometimes they become part of it, because the image is too strong to vanish. A congregation at prayer, storm overhead, a black dog in the aisle, death, scorch marks, and a shape that could be named but not contained. The name Black Shuck comes later. It's usually linked to the Old English Shucker, meaning fiend. The name appears in print in 1850. By then, the dog has grown into something more recognisably modern. By 1901, W.A. Dutt gives him the form many now recognise. Large as a horse, black as coal, eyes burning, silent, solitary, seen just beyond lantern light. Sometimes he brings death, sometimes company. He walks beside travellers. He vanishes when they return. East Anglia is a place of brackish water, fading roads, and horizons that make the human body feel small. So is Shuck. He's not easy to hold as a monster or a ghost. He arrives, and once he does, the question is not only what he is, it is what you do next. Further north, the dog divides again. Yorkshire, Lancashire and Cheshire have their own shadows. Barghest, Padfoot, Scriker, Gytrash. The Barghest is one of the best known, a monstrous dog with claws and burning eyes. An omen, though not always an attacker. Sometimes it harms, but sometimes it warns. Padfoot follows unseen, with glowing eyes and the drag of chains. The fear is not in what it does, but the fact that it is near. The Scriker howls before it strikes, not always deadly, but always unsettling. The Gytrash shift shape, horse, mule, dog. In Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte invokes the Gytrash just before Jane meets Rochester, a folkloric hinge, a shape at the moment before the story changes. Even the church grim, buried beneath a church to guard it, takes a dog's form, sacred but not soft, protective but not gentle. These dogs share the quality of the in-between. They exist in hesitation. They appear, they follow, they vanish. And the traveller is left with the oldest question on a lonely road. Was that footstep an echo or something else? Not all black dogs bring dread. Some simply walk beside you. In Lincolnshire, stories tell of Hairy Jack, a big black dog. No obvious menace, no attack, no apocalyptic storm. Just there. In 1938, the folklorist Ethel Rudkin documented accounts from farmers and travellers. The pattern repeated. A lone walker finds the dog at their side. It does not bark, it does not demand attention. It walks. Then it disappears at a hedge gap, a wall break or the edge of a field. These are not dramatic tales, they're footpath stories, walk-home stories. The kind of story told quietly because it doesn't sound like much until you remember what it felt like. One man said, "It just doesn't like people walking alone." What if a phantom is kind? What if it guards? What if the black dog is not always a warning that something is coming, but a presence that stays until the danger has passed? When Hairy Jack vanishes, the story does not ask for a scream, it asks for a nod. It walked as far as it could. Some stories fade, others repeat. Even now the black dog remains. Quieter, more subtle, still there. Modern accounts often arrive as fragments. A dog on a beach, pacing just outside torchlight. A person walking alone who senses something behind them. A shape by the road that is gone when the car turns back. A memory posted online years after the event, not as proof but as confession. These are not usually formal records. No careful timestamps or sealed evidence bags. But the tone is familiar. Reverent, calm, uncertain. The dog appears, it walks, it vanishes. No climax, no demand. In a world of cameras, the black dog eludes capture. Descriptions stay vague. Just enough to recognize the shape. Just enough to pass it on. Seen, then gone. The feeling of being watched but not always stalked. Accompanied but not always threatened. That is when it arrives, not to be proven, just to be noticed, then forgotten until it returns. So let us look again, not to decide what happened, to see what the story carries. In Bungay there's a fixed date, the 4th of August 1577. A storm, church, lightning, deaths, and scorch marks, and in the account that survives, a black dog. Was the dog part of the first fear? Was it shaped by the pamphlet? Was it attached later to the marks and the memory? The name Shuck arrives later. We graft the name backward, and that's not necessarily deceit. It's how folklore grows. A shape appears, a name finds it. A place adopts it. A story keeps walking. The same happens elsewhere. The Moor for Dhoo becomes a castle story. Hairy Jack becomes a footpath story. The Barghest and Padfoot become road stories. The Cù-Sìth becomes a countdown. The Church Grim becomes a guardian beneath sacred ground. Each dog is shaped by the place that keeps it. Each place is changed by the dog it remembers. What remains is this: a storm in East Anglia, a church where people died, marks on old doors, a pamphlet from 1577, a name that arrives later, castle corridor that no one should walk, a fairy hound that barks 3 times, a road where chains are heard behind you, a footpath where a black dog walks beside the lonely, then leaves at the hedge. None of these pieces require the same answer, and that may be the point. The black dog is not a single conclusion, it is a vessel, for dread, for memory, for warning, or for hope, or for the need to believe that when the path grows strange, something might still walk beside us. And maybe the fear is not death. Maybe the fear is vanishing alone. A story about a black dog says you were not alone. Something saw you, something walked with you. Maybe that is why the claw marks remain, why the corridor stayed sealed, why the hedge gap never disappears. Not because everyone believes the same thing, because everyone remembers the shape. Maybe Black Shuck was born from lightning. Maybe he was waiting before the storm began. Maybe the Moor for Dhoo was a warning made into a dog. Maybe Hairy Jack is nothing more than kindness given a shadow. Or maybe on certain roads, in certain weather, when the light is low and the fields are quiet, something old still knows when we are walking alone. The black dogs of Britain do not give answers. They appear at the threshold, they walk for a while, and then they vanish and leave the question with us. You have been listening to Noir Frequency. If this story found you, there are a few small ways that you can help the signal travel further. Like the episode, share it with someone who might walk these roads with you. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. If you want to go deeper, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/noirfrequency for early access, bonus material, and an ad-free feed. And if you want to carry the signal out into the world, visit noirfrequency.com for the merch store. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep listening.